Could the Seahawks be heading into a trap this Sunday? Can the Eagles taste the rainbow? We shall see. Mike Owens, Jeremy Burton are both here. I'm Adrian Fedke. We're breaking this game down. Seahawks coming off that win against New England. You never know. They could be coming home, a little bit on the low because they were on the high. So we shall see.
Oh, man. Do we really have to go on the road again? Just when we were getting used to us being back at home and dominating, we have to go on the road and be shitty again. This Eagles team, such a different team when they're on the road. And hopefully they can play like they're at home. But it's going to be tough going to Seattle there with the 12th man. The fans will be pumped up. Right now, the weather forecast is looking like it's going to be rainy. Shocker. It's going to be rainy in Seattle. So that could play into the game here. Maybe the rain will actually help the Eagles wide receivers catch the ball in this one. So we'll see. Maybe the Eagles will go to the famous, Pike Place Market there when they get into Seattle. Maybe catch some fish, some slippery fish before the game. Maybe that'll help them.
Aguilar's got to spend like 40 hours in that place. And Beckham, too. Both of them.
Oh, man. This is the last place you want to play, especially like Mike said. This is we're such a different team on the road. We're averaging just under giving up 10 points a game at home. We're 4-0, and just given up 20. I think between 23 and 24 points a game on the road. We're a totally different team on the road. We're all going to have to. All the Eagles are going to have to take a trip up the Space Needle and load up on Starbucks coffee to be amped up for this game. 12th man playing against the Super Bowl winning quarterback, Legion of Boom. We're gonna need like the game last year against New England. I think we're gonna that upset in New England. We're gonna need special teams touchdown, a spark, a big turnover. We're gonna need a little extra something in order to win this game. I like the matchup of our defensive line against their offensive line. We got to exploit that. Brandon Graham, Connor Barwin, all those guys. They got to get in Russell's face and not let him extend plays. I think he only has like 60 rushing yards this year. It's not. He's been gimpy all year, dealing with knee and ankle injuries. So he's finally shed a couple of braces and looked better, but he's still not running as much. So hopefully that continues and we can contain him. Because we're going to have a hard time scoring points, I think. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. We're going to need that big play to contain Russell to get this win.
Yeah, it's going to start with that, woeful Seattle offensive line going up against the Eagles defensive line. But again, going back to that home and road thing. All right, so the Eagles, they sack the quarterback 3.8 times a game when they're at home. When they're on the road, it's only 2.0. So, like, twice as many when you're at home. That's insane. And, as bad as that Seattle offensive line is, they've given up only 19 sacks on the year, which is just as many as Philly. So, that's 21st. Indianapolis, just to get a gauge on, how good of a number that is. It's not a bad number. Indianapolis has been sacked 33 times. So, Andrew Luck, that offensive line up there is real, real bad. So, basically what that tells me is Russell Wilson is getting that ball out, really, really quickly this year, a lot quicker than he normally does. And, he's starting to get his mobility back a little bit more and more and more each week since he had that MCL sprain. So, it's going to come down to that. Brandon Graham is going up against Gary Gilliam. He should bake mincemeat to him. You would think so. We shall see. So that line, besides maybe Justin Britt, at center, there's not really much there. You got Jermaine Ifedi there, the right guard, the first-round pick. I like him as a player. He's all right. Then who else they got? George Fant is their left tackle. He's an undrafted free agent from Western Kentucky. Mark Lewinsky, I believe, is their left guard. So it's slim pickings up front. But, for whatever reason, we can't seem to pressure the quarterback on the road.
Yeah, it seems like we can't pressure the quarterback on the road, but if there was ever a chance for the Eagles' defensive line to dominate on the road, this was the game because you know, the Seahawks, like you just mentioned, their offensive line, it's definitely not the best. So the way this Eagles defensive line is playing, well, it's a best spot on the Eagles roster. So we're going up against the biggest weakness of the Seahawks team. So if the Eagles defensive line, especially Brandon Graham, can get in the backfield, what they're going to have to do is then they're going to have to contain Russell Wilson, and that becomes another issue. So he could give us problems with his mobility, because you go back and you look at the Eagles' game plan against the Vikings, and what they did was they just, I mean, the Eagles' the defensive line just dominated a poor Vikings offensive line, but that was Sam Bradford. He's the guy who can't escape the pocket. Now the Eagles have a totally different animal in Russell Wilson, so that's why, you know, this is a very tough game for the Eagles. So when the Eagles' defensive line is able to get in the backfield, they're going to have to make sure that they get Russell Wilson down and they tackle him, because if they don't and he scrambles, that's when our cornerbacks are going to struggle.
Yeah, I can't say enough about this defensive line, especially with Benny Logan coming back. I mean, he just showed how big of a piece he is in the Atlanta game, you know, helping out overall the rotation of the defensive line. You know, that's the number one matchup we look for, this battle in the trenches. I say it almost every week. You got to win the battle. You know, the defenses are comparable. The Birds have only given up 18 touchdowns, and compared to Seattle 16. You know, that's pretty damn close overall. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. You're going to have to make plays. I like the game plan we did against Atlanta. You know, if you can mirror that game plan, yeah, the Seahawks linebackers are nothing like Atlanta's linebackers. I mean, so running the ball will be tough, but you're still going to have to establish the run. If you can control the time of possession, I mean, time of possession is huge. If we can win that, especially on the road, you know, that'll give us a great chance. Keep Russell Wilson off the field, because you know, I think it's going to be a low scoring game, and whoever holds the ball longer is going to win this game.
Yeah, I'm hoping what we saw from the offensive line last week is a sign of things to come. But you know, you just referenced those Atlanta linebackers. They have two rookies that in their linebacking core, Deion Jones, Devondre Campbell. And what I was seeing on tape was, you know, the Eagles were mixing in some misdirection plays, and these guys just kept over pursuing. These guys are youngsters. They don't get it yet. You know, now we're going up against Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, and, well, Cassius Marsh isn't anything special, but those two guys are studs. So it's going to be a completely different animal. You know, we shall see if they can dominate that D-line. Michael Bennett isn't going to play. So last week was the best, by far the best I've seen the offensive line run block. Jason Kelce had himself a hell of a game. When he's not committing a holding penalty, he was playing pretty damn well. You know, and Doug was utilizing him correctly, because he's a guy, when he's one-on-one, he can't really push anyone back. But he was getting double team help with Brandon Brooks. So Brandon Brooks was helping him out. And when you know, when Kelce did go one-on-one, what he was doing, they were pulling a lot on the boundary with him. So Wisniewski was pulling. You had Kelce pulling. A lot of that stuff that we saw in Chip Kelly's offense, they were mixing a little bit of that in. But, you know, what I really like to see, it seems like the offensive line is finally starting to get the timing down, the cohesiveness down. Because if you think about it, you know, it takes a while to get all that, you know, worked out and working all the timing and all that with the offensive line, especially when you consider this. Chip Kelly's playbook, they only run they have 3, 4, 5 running plays. So there's not a lot you need to learn, not a lot of cohesiveness that you need to build. But in this offense, Doug Peterson has so many different formations, so many different running plays that, I mean, that's a lot you got to work on. And if you remember earlier in the year, they weren't as good as they look now. It's as plain as simple as that. Sometimes it takes half the season when you get a new coach in here. And maybe, just maybe, that's what we're starting to see. But, you know, that being said, this is a very, very stout run defense. 3.5 yards per carry allowed on the season. That's third in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you make some great points there. And you look along the Eagles' offensive line, and, you know, when they had that winning streak in the beginning of the year, they won their first 3 games. Well, that's because they had Lane Johnson in there, and he was playing So the Eagles had that cohesiveness. And then things kind of got shaken up a little bit. The Eagles, they lost Barbary at guard. And then with Lane Johnson's suspension, they had to put Big V in at right tackle. So, things got congested a little bit. They got combumbled a bit. So what the Eagles have to do now is they're starting to get on the same page again. So you saw it last week with the offensive line. It seemed like they were on the same page. They were kind of taking advantage of Kelsey's athleticism, like you said. So hopefully now they're on the same page and they continue to run the ball at Brian Matthews. And if they can get 100 yards a game from Matthews all the time, then they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been great watching Big V get better and better every week. And the way Adrian said, this offensive line has become more cohesive as a unit since Lane Johnson went out. And, it showed substantially last week. One of my favorite plays of the game in the Atlanta game was fake to Matthews, fake reverse, little dump to Matthews with 3 linemen out in front for 20 yards. Like that's a great play call. And you're gonna have to do things like that. That is a perfect play to put our guys in the right position to get a big play. I mean, we're gonna have, not only Matthews but Smallwood ran for like 70 yards last week. He looked good. Sproles, we know what we can do with him. I don't care who they have at linebacker. It's a mismatch with Sproles against their linebackers. He's faster. And so these 3 running backs, I like that rotation. It's going to be huge. Offensive line's got to continue to play at a high level. Get in that bubble in the NovaCare complex, make it loud in practice, because you're going to have to work the silent count a lot. This isn't our first road game. We did it, for the Redskins game and the other road games. They know the silent count. That this is not their first road game, so get better and better at the silent count. It's going to be huge. Hand signals, whatever you got to do to get this offense rolling in such a harsh environment. So hope Doug makes a similar game, a good game plan like he did against Atlanta. And Jim Schwartz got to be on his game as well.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, it's going to be really, 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 really tough to move the football against that defense. If they can't establish a run, I think we're kind of fucked, because I don't see how. I don't know. Well, here's what was encouraging last week. I'll say this. So Carson Wentz completed 25 passes last week. Only 8 of them went to the wide receivers. So what does that mean? I mean, 17 of them went to the tight ends and running backs. So each week, I keep hearing, well, we got to bring Bryce Treggs and get him involved more. We got to get Paul Turner up here, blah, 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 blah. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather see Bryce Treggs catch passes? Would you rather see Paul Turner catch passes? Or would you rather see Trey Burton catch passes? How about that? Let's get Trey Burton involved. Fuck the wide receivers. Fuck that. Get the 2 to 3 tight end sets out there more. I've been calling for it all year, damn it. That's what they should be doing. So, yeah. So, I mean, I know it's a tough matchup this week with the linebackers, but if you have 3 of them out there, I mean, that's not easy to cover. So, I mean, sure, they have Cam Chancellor, KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner. That's tough. But also, if you mix in Sproles, I mean, that's what I think they got to do. Forget about Jordan Matthews, DGB. Jordan Matthews might make some plays, but forget about Aguilar. Forget about DGB. Forget about it. They're hopeless at this point. So I want to get the tight ends and the running backs involved more, even though it's going to be hard as fuck, because the linebackers are really, really good in coverage. And they got Cam Chancellor. And they got Earl Thomas. Oh, my God.
Man, yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound promising, but, that's why this game, I think with the Eagles, what you're going to see is, that the famous, slant pattern that they love to run. You're going to see a ton of that, because the Eagles are going to need to run short patterns in this game, quick passes, really what they've been doing, because they're not going to be able to go down the field. And, well, the tough part is the Eagles are going to have to establish that running game early and get it going, because, well, the Seahawks aren't going to respect the Eagles wide receiver. So the Eagles can get the running game going early, hopefully that can open up the passing game a little bit. And that's where, I did a video on this earlier, but when the Eagles can get that running game going, it all leads to this time of possession thing. And, during each of the 5 wins for the Eagles this season, they've been absolutely dominating time of possession. I mean, they're averaging well over 30 minutes in time of possession when they win these games. And in those games, they're not turning the ball over, and that's going to be key in this game as well. During the Eagles' 5 wins, their turnover differential is +6. So, that's really good. So that's what the Eagles are going to have to do in this game. They're just going to have to live to play another down, not turn the ball over, get the running game going. It's really going to be boring on offense, but, hopefully, you can get maybe, hopefully 10 to 17 points from your offense and then maybe get a defensive touchdown. That's how you're going to have to win this game.
Yeah, I was at the Atlanta game, and I counted 12 times where I heard number 73 is reported eligible. We got to use these big formations. Sayamalu was that extra offensive lineman, and mostly those plays are running plays, but you have to establish that running game, and you can set up play action. You're going to have to. I know how tough their corners are, but I still say this every game. You gotta take at least one shot or two. It's funny you mentioned how bad the DGB has been. I saw a stat. He has played 93 snaps the last 2 games with 0 catches. I mean, that's abysmal. I mean, I don't even want to see him on the field anymore. You're right. I mean,
give him time. You got to give him time, though. You got to give him time.
If we can make plays with our tight ends, yeah, absolutely. I want to see Selleck catch passes, Burton catch passes, Ertz. I mean, linebackers can't cover them all. Well, then, of course, they still got Chancellor and Earl Thomas, but they might be doing other things in coverage or in the back end or whatever, or blitzing. So, yeah, I would rather throw it to the tight ends than Aguilar or DGB, obviously. I think Matthews is going to get his looks. I mean, he's going to get, 10 to 13 targets, I'm sure. They might not be for a ton of yards, but Jordan Matthews is going to get his looks. Sherman hasn't really played much of the slot, so if we keep Matthews in the slot, I think it avoids that Sherman matchup. So, we'll see. Mike's right. It's going to be tough to get points. I see us getting around that 10 to 17 point range, with maybe help on defensive special teams. We're going to need it.
I bet Richard Sherman, he's going to come out there on the field on Sunday. He's going to put a blindfold on, and he's still going to shut down Nelson Aguilar. Like, Jesus Christ with that guy. Nelson and DGB. Yeah, we'll see about Jordan Matthews. I mean, I think Seattle's cornerbacks, even besides Richard Sherman, they're pretty underrated too. Deshaun Shedd, Jeremy Lane, these guys can ball. So there ain't no Kerry Williams in town anymore. He's not there anymore. These guys are a lot better than him. So, yeah, it's going to be slim pickings. I think Sproles is like the X factor, not only getting him involved in the screen game, but, we saw all the option routes last week. Every 3rd and 4, every 3rd and 5 they were throwing him the ball. And, Wentz was putting the ball in the money. It's not easy throwing the ball to Darren Sproles. He's 5'6". You got to lower your target. Wentz is 6'5". But, yeah, you got to get that going a little bit more with Sproles out in the passing game. I think he's going to be really, really important in this game because it's hard to see where they're really going to move the ball, through the air. I just don't see it. This is the game where I would be completely cool if you don't throw a pass over 20 yards. I'm completely cool with it because I'd be way too scared about the ball getting picked in this game.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But, when you go back and you look at our road games this season and, you really think about, one of the big reasons why we're struggling on the road is because we come out and we start really slow. And this is a game in Seattle. If there was ever a game, the Eagles cannot afford to do that because they're not going to be able to come back in a game like this if they get down early because that 12th man will really become a factor, and the Seahawks will just have so much momentum, especially after their big victory over the Patriots, that they could just roll in this one because they're on a hot streak right now. So Eagles, are going to have to, change things up a little bit and play like they have been playing at home and do it on the road in Seattle. Get off to a hot start. And it could be a game where the Seahawks, maybe they come out a little bit slow. They're still high off that victory over the Patriots. So maybe the Eagles can catch them off guard and take an early lead. And that's what the Eagles are going to have to do in this game to have a shot.
Yeah, I completely agree. If we go down like 10-0 or 14-0 early, this game's going to be over quick. It was a huge emotional win for them traveling across the country in New England. Could they play down to us a little bit? They're riding high. Could we catch them off guard? That goes in our favor, absolutely. So we just got to hope Dougie P puts together the right game plan, and we have a good week of practice. I know Ertz has missed practice today with a hammy. That's not good. Matthews had back spasms, but he's expected to play. These are guys we're going to need. So, yeah, I don't feel great about this game, but I think we got a shot. We got to make a statement. This would be, if this happens, this would be a statement game, and I'll call Monday Playoff Monday, because if we win this game, I think we're poised for a playoff run.
Possibly, we shall see. I'm not getting my hopes up. Because like you could say, like, yeah, they could be riding off the high. It could be a trap game for them. But then at the same time, you could also say that could be the spark that gets their run going. You know what I mean? Because the Seahawks, they always play well in the second half of the year. They just obliterate the competition. Once it gets to November, December, that's when they really, really get rolling. That's how it's been for them the last couple years. So we shall see. Our hopefulness, we want it to be a trap game. That's what's going on here. I know what's going on here. But hey, it could be. You never know. I mean, maybe they do go up 14-0. That's exactly what happened in New England last year. They got up. What they get up? It was like, I don't remember at this point, but I know they got off to a big lead, and they were able to hold off Tom Brady at the end. So we shall see. All right, let's see. What else? All right, Seattle wide receivers. Seattle wide receivers, they're like sneaky good as a collective unit. They don't have any like stars. I mean, it depends what you think of Doug Baldwin. I think Doug Baldwin's one of the most underrated receivers in the league. He and Russell Wilson have a really good cohesiveness built over the last couple years. Baldwin's a guy that's really good at getting open, playing backyard football when Russell Wilson gets out of the pocket and escapes and, playing that kind of stuff. I caught 3 touchdowns last week. Jimmy Graham has really gotten going this year. So yeah, they got a bunch of like little pieces that we wish we had, like guys like Tyler Lockett, Paul Richardson, Jermaine Kearse. We wish we had those guys.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. We wish we had, anyone that could catch the ball at this point. So, but yeah, when you talk about, some of the Seahawks wide receivers and their tight ends and Jimmy Graham, and now all of a sudden they have, CJ Prosise, Notre Dame product.
Yeah, I didn't even mention him. A good point.
He's really starting to come on now. They're really starting to utilize him. In fact, for a while there, the Seahawks were starting Christian Michael, and they just got rid of him. They just kicked him to the curb. I think he went to the Packers now. So now they've got CJ Prosise. He could be a factor out of the backfield and in the passing game. So the Eagles are going to have to worry about him too. So, I mean, with this Seahawks offense, they got a lot of weapons, and especially with Russell Wilson running the show, it seems like he's healthy now. So it's going to be a real challenge for the Eagles.
Yeah, this is the biggest test of the year by far. I mean, this game, when the schedule came out, oh great, we're playing in Seattle. That's a loss, right? I mean, we all thought it.
I still feel that.
They got a lot of weapons. Doug Baldwin really came on during the second half last year. Ended up with, I think, 14 receiving touchdowns last year. So this is that time of the year, the second half run. Like you said, Seattle's been great in the second half in recent years. CJ Prosise, it's interesting. He was a wide receiver at Notre Dame, converted running back, big guy, 6'1", over 200 pounds. He had a career high in carries last week with 17. But they love him in the passing game. He has caught 15 out of his 15 targets for over 160 yards. They'll line him up as a receiver. They'll spread him out. He's a weapon. With our Nolan Carroll got cleared to practice from the concussion, but our corners, Leo hasn't been, he's been battling like lingering injuries. He's been playing, but Jalen Mills, Nolan Carroll, these guys aren't top of the line corners. And with Russell Wilson at the helm, you can put the ball anywhere. It's going to be really tough. We have to hold them to 17, 20 points if we want to get even a remote shot. And that might even be too many points to give up.
Yeah, speaking of Jalen Mills, you can make the argument Jalen Mills is our best cornerback right now. I don't know if that's scary or if that's good.
Well, Jim Schwartz agrees with you. I don't know if you saw his press conference today, but
I
yeah,
didn't get the cover.
He pretty much said what you just did. He's extremely confident in Jalen Mills, and without technically saying it, he said that Jalen Mills is the number one cornerback on the team.
Jalen Mills disagrees. He's like, no, I'm not.
I think it's the colored hair. It's his hair. It's the hair, isn't it?
Of course.
I mean, we talked about Jalen Mills, after the draft, 7th rounder out of LSU. He covered some great receivers in that conference. Odell and Jarvis Landry. So that was a steal in the 7th round. He dropped it, because of off the field issues. But he's been, he's got a great attitude. He's got that fire to him. It seems like for a 7th round pick. Hell yeah. Besides Carson, I mean, we were saying this. We think he was the best pick of the draft for us.
Yeah.
So it's great that Jim Schwartz feels so confident in him. That's great. He was lined up on Julio Jones a little bit last week, so we got to see.
He was on him a lot.
Yeah,
he was on him a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, in the second half, he was on him a lot, and he did. So, he hung in. He battled.
He's a fighter. I feel confident in him.
Yeah, he still gets beat a lot, but like Leonis McKelvin, he gives up 70-yard touchdowns. So I don't know how I feel about that. Nolan Carroll can't tackle, so I don't know how I feel about that. Jalen Mills is just not as bad as them. That's just what it is right now. So that's basically how, like, Jalen Mills, he's feisty, he fights, and he's the best of the corners right now. I don't know. It might sound crazy. Clearly not, but Jim Schwartz agrees with me. So might be on to something, I guess. All right, let's see. I guess we'll do predictions. We'll do that, and then, then we'll do a little Dawkins talk.
Oh, yeah, predictions. Oh, man, I wish I could say that the Eagles are going to win this one, but it's just not going to happen. We're just not going to be able to do it. We don't have the firepower to be able to keep up with the Seahawks. And like you were saying, Adrian, our offense just isn't going to be able to move the ball. And I think the problem could become when we get down in that red zone, I don't think we're going to be able to convert it to touchdowns. We might get just one, too many field goals in this game. And I think when it comes to the fourth quarter, I think that's when the Seahawks are really going to win this game, and Russell Wilson's going to take over. And I'm going to say that the Seahawks win this one 20-13.
Oh man, I don't know what to pick. But
just keep the trend continuing.
Somehow, we find a way to win these games. Okay, this is just what the Eagles do. Something's going to happen, and we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it close. And I think Darren Sproles is going to be the X factor. I think he's going to have a big return in the punt game, and we'll somehow pull it out 17-16.
There it is. The Eagles are 5-4 in the year when Jeremy picks games. I love it. I've got 24-17 Seattle. I think we might, hang in there a little bit, and we just come up short. I think we'll look good in a loss, if that makes sense. It'll be a valiant effort. But they got to get a return touchdown. They got to get like 10 points off turnovers, something like either 10 points off turnovers or like a return touchdown. I don't know. That's how they got to win this game. That's how they're going to win this game. Because I'm having trouble figuring out how they're going to move the ball. Maybe Bryce Treggs will get a reverse or like some jet sweeps. I don't know. I just don't know how they're going to move the ball. I'm having trouble trying to figure out ways they're going to do it. Darren Sproles is like the guy that I'm kind of relying on. So we shall see. But yeah, so all right. Let's talk about Brian Dawkins a little bit. He's in semifinals for the Hall of Fame. What do you guys think? Is he a Hall of Famer? Of course he is.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's no doubts about this one. He's my favorite Eagle of all time. So, yeah, for me, it's no question about it. He should be in the Hall of Fame. So I think that he's going to get in there. What he did for this franchise, you can't even put it into words.
Yeah, since the Hall of Fame came about, there's only a handful, I think 5 or 6 safeties in the Hall of Fame. But, the safety position has really changed in this, in this generation, late 90s, 2000s now, since Dawkins has been around. The guys, Dawkins and John Lynch, you got Polamalu and Ed Reed. These safeties, I think, are all Hall of Fame caliber. And, to have, also my favorite player of all time, Dawkins, in the running, he's semifinalist, and this will be his first ballot. It's just so exciting. He got really emotional, and I would feel the same way when he eventually gets in. I think, no doubt, he gets in one day, maybe not first ballot, but in the coming years, absolutely, there's no more deserving safety, I think. Look at the numbers, look at the influence, his personality. What he brought to our team, that X factor, Weapon X. He is unmatched by any safety in history and what he brings. I think. Just the unique blend of talent, personality, firepower that he brings. It's just he's the whole package. And here's my 75 anniversary jersey. I always rock. I like rocking this one occasionally. The UCLA light blue and yellow. But love the man. I love Dawkins.
Hell yeah. And like you said earlier, man, tears will be streaming down my face when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. The exact number I'm looking up now: 7 pure safeties have been enshrined in Canton. Let's see if I even know who these guys are. Jack Christensen, Houston. Whatever. I think I fucked that up. I think there's 7, but I don't know if these names are right. But anyway, basically, like Jeremy was saying, the safety position has evolved. It's become more of a specialty position. Because back in the 70s, these guys, the safeties were, all right, if you ran slow as a cornerback, they just put you at safety. That's what they did back then. Now, safeties, they blitz, they play in the box, they play the run, they cover, they do so many different things now. And the early 2000s, late 1990s, that's when the boom came. And now we see safeties getting drafted in the first round. We see it a lot now. Eric Berry, Earl Thomas, guys like that. So, from the era that Dawkins played in, you're looking at potentially 4 Hall of Famers. Looking at Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Brian Dawkins, John Lynch. I think Ed Reed is probably the best of the bunch out of that quartet. Polamalu and Dawkins are like on the same playing field. Then I think it's John Lynch. So, but all 4 of them are really, really good safeties, and we'll see how everything plays itself out. So Dawkins clearly a Hall of Famer, and that's that. So let's do final thoughts and let's get out of here.
Yeah, my final thoughts are that if the Eagles want to have a good shot at winning this game, not only are they going to have to play perfect football, but it's going to have to start with their head coach. Doug Peterson is going to have to come out with a near perfect game plan, and he can't have any brain farts in this one. He's had a lot of them this season, and even last week against Atlanta, the Eagles won the game, but there was times where Peterson made some very questionable calls. So in this game, he can't have any second thoughts, about maybe going forward on 4th and 2 or kicking a field goal. He's got to be decisive. He's got to make the right calls. He's got to have the right players in the game. And if he does that, then maybe the Eagles have a shot. But, this can't be a game where they miss any opportunities. They got to be on point 100%.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, my final thought was going to be about Dawkins, but we had a little segment on that. On Doug again, got to have a spot-on game plan, like Mike said. In the red zone, if we get in the red zone, we cannot get field goals. We need to punch it in. I don't care how you do it. When you're on the 3-inch line, don't run a sweep. Run it up the middle. These are things you're going to have to do. You're right. I mean, Doug Peterson did have a couple of questionable calls, even though he got the win last week. But his game plan overall, in fact, he dealt with deficiencies. You got to do the same thing this week. Matchup, create good matchups. Same thing with Schwartz. Right. Attack their offensive line, contain Wilson. Gonna have to play perfect game plan, perfect game. It's going to be really tough, toughest test of the year, but this will be a big statement in the NFC conference. If we can somehow, some way, pull this out. So Sproles is my man, my X factor. I think he gets a punt return touchdown, we win this game.
All right, so my final thought, I got the list now. So there's 7 pure safeties in the Hall of Fame, but 9 in total. So some of them actually played cornerback. So you got Paul Krause, you got Ronnie Lott, Willie Wood, Larry Wilson, Jack Christensen, Ken Houston, Mel Renfro, Emlyn Tunnell, and Yale Larry. And only one safety has been inducted into the Hall since 1980. So it's been about a minute, and that was Ronnie Lott. So it's slim pickings at the safety position, but like we talked about, we're going to see a couple now go in there over the next couple years. So with that being said, Mike Owens, Jeremy Burton, I'm Adrian Fedke. Let's get this W. That's probably not going to happen.